It happened. It happened. Lindy Ruff is no longer the head coach of the New Jersey Devils. And what's going on, everybody? It is, as always, your host, your best friend, your confidant, your number one source, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to a breaking news edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast right here on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as Sports Wire Radio, the best place to get everything you need to know about your now head coachless New Jersey Devils. And as always, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm sure for a lot of you guys, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, all of those great places, I'm sure that most of you are listening to this feeling at least a bit relieved that the Devils will indeed have a new head coach behind the bench. Not just for the rest of this year, but certainly going into the 2024-2025 season when that gets underway. Just really quickly, shout out to all of our sponsors down below. SeatGeek, use promo code Devil State of Mind to get $20 off your first purchase of any sporting or concert event of your choosing. Use promo code THPN when you sign up for DraftKings. You bet $5, you get $200 instantly in free bets. And with March Madness for college basketball right around the corner, you got the NHL and NBA playoffs also right around the corner, and the start of the Major League Baseball season just a couple of weeks away. DraftKings is the number one destination to get in on all the huge cash prizes. So if you bet $5, you can get $200 in free bets instantly when you sign up for DraftKings and using our promo code THPN. And lastly, make sure you use my promo code Devil State to get 10% off your orders at Horns and Tail Napa Valley, the official wine club of the New Jersey Devils and the official wine sponsor of the Devil State of Mind podcast. You get some great, delicious tasting wine with Devils themed bottles. They are very, very cool. The product is absolutely phenomenal. It is the perfect gift for the Devils fan in your life or for a Devils fan like yourself. So make sure you guys, again, use promo code Devil State to get 10% off your orders at Horns and Tail Napa Valley. And as always, thank you to all of our sponsors here sponsoring the Devil's State of Mind podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. And also, just really quickly, make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, both on Facebook and Instagram at Devil's State of Mind, and then also on Twitter at Devil's State. So now we've gotten all of that out of the way. This is going to be a fairly short episode. I originally planned to come on here to kind of do more of a rant about how the West Coast road trip pretty much ended up being mostly a disaster. The last time you guys heard me, we had just finished recapping the Devils' dominant 7-2 win over the Sharks to open up the road trip. And the Devils followed that up with two embarrassing losses to the Anaheim Ducks and Los Angeles Kings, respectively, with the other one coming on Sunday afternoon. And in the 24-hour period between when the Devils lost to LA and now, and certainly even well beyond this by the time you guys are listening and or watching this episode, there was a lot of speculation and really desire from the Devils fan base that Lindy Ruff had to go. He should have been gone weeks ago. He shouldn't have not been brought back. Whatever you want to say. But the reality is that as of about 5:30 earlier today on Monday, March 4th, 2024, the New Jersey Devils announced that they had fired Lindy Ruff as head coach of the New Jersey Devils and made Travis Green the interim head coach for the rest of the season. So that's kind of where we're at this point. So let's kind of go through how we got to this point right now, because I think that people are expecting me to come on here and completely rip into Lindy Ruff for the next 5 to 10 minutes. And that's not what I'm going to do, honestly and truly. Here is where the New Jersey Devils are at. There is blame to go around to everybody, and it goes from Tom Fitzgerald to Lindy Ruff to the other assistant coaches and to the players themselves. This is a collective failure up until this point, 61 games into the season. The Devils had high expectations going into this year. They had championship aspirations. Some people even projected that this team could very well compete and win a Stanley Cup this season. But there were obviously question marks going into the year that were not really answered, due to Tom Fitzgerald making certain decisions or not making certain decisions. And then you're still with Lindy Ruff, who, despite the Devils having an historic season last year, for the majority of his tenure as the head coach of the Devils, they haven't really had a lot of major team success. Yes, Lindy Ruff has done a really good job of developing a lot of the core players, the young guys, the Nico Hischers, the Jack Hugheses, the Jesper Bratts, the Dawson Mercers of the world. But in terms of this team needing to take another step forward and getting to where they want to go, I never felt that Lindy Ruff was going to be that guy. I know that some people will not speculate, will say that, well, Lindy Ruff got dealt a bad hand at times, especially this year. And I agree. He did get dealt a bad hand with Tom Fitzgerald not going after a quality goaltender in the offseason and riding with what he had last year when it had proven in the playoffs that it wasn't good enough for this team to win. And so they went into this year with some risks, and unfortunately they have backfired. Now, also having a lot of your main guys hurt at different points of the year is not going to help either. But at this point in the year, the Devils are probably the closest they've been to full strength since the beginning of the year, and the Devils have put up some pretty piss poor performances. The Devils are 2-5-0 since the Stadium Series. They followed up that Stadium Series win, which we all thought was going to be the major turning point of the season, and got blown out in back-to-back games to Washington and the Rangers, respectively. And the only wins that they could string together are against two bottom five teams in the league in Montreal and San Jose. Also in that time, they've lost to Anaheim, losing both games to the Ducks this year, with Jack Hughes having an absolutely piss-poor attempt or no attempt at all on that penalty shot that could have sent the game to overtime and maybe the Devils win. And then against LA, they don't even really put up a fight despite scoring the first goal. They just laid down and died. And the Devils now are sitting with 21 games to go. They're about 7 points out of a playoff spot at this moment, at the time of this recording. And Tom Fitzgerald made the decision that he needed this team to have a different voice in the locker room and to try to make a run at this to try to get into the playoffs. So let me go through each level of blame, and that'll kind of, that you'll kind of get where I'm coming from. You blame Tom Fitzgerald for a couple of things. One, you blame him for not addressing the goaltending in the offseason. That was a problem. Number two, you don't end up bringing in at least one more, maybe two more veteran defensemen, instead relying on rookies like Luke Hughes and even later on Simo Nemetz to play major roles, and they're not necessarily ready for it. That's obviously not what you want to do. But also, I think that Tom Fitzgerald made a mistake keeping Lindy Ruff around. I know that people would have gone kind of crazy if Lindy Ruff didn't return to start this year, but the reality is that the game in some degrees has passed him by. He made a lot of different decisions with changing so many different things and never being able to build chemistry that it wasn't going to work. And I think that his internal clock with this team had run out way before he got fired today. And so Fitzgerald holding on to Lindy Ruff this long, I think ultimately hurt this team. And if the Devils don't make the playoffs, that's going to be one of those things we're going to look at and say, that's on Tom Fitzgerald. I also have speculated over the last couple of hours that Tom Fitzgerald did this now in order to avoid being really ridiculed by tomorrow when the Devils begin a 3-game homestand again, first with the Florida Panthers tomorrow night. And because if Lindy Ruff was still behind the bench, then instead of necessarily just fire Lindy, there might have been fire Fitzy chance, and I don't know if Tom Fitzgerald really was willing to do that. And I think um, by firing Lindy Ruff, it takes a little bit of the pressure off of him. But now the focus is going to be on him with the trade deadline coming up on Friday. And obviously, you're going to have to make some pretty big moves in the offseason, coaching, goaltending, trying to bring back pieces, maybe add a piece or two as well. A lot of things you got to do. But that's where I put that's the blame that I put on Tom Fitzgerald. The blame I put on Lindy Ruff are things like you're constantly changing lines. You're not allowing these guys to develop any sort of chemistry. You're giving up on situations way too early. You're not preparing your team to play game in and game out. You're not motivating the team when things get tough, and you're putting guys in inappropriate positions. You have Timo Meier playing on his off wing. Don't get that. You have Timo Meier playing the bottom six role. Don't understand where the logic comes with that. You have Alexander Holtz, who was the whipping boy for Lindy Ruff all year long, being stuck on the fourth line no matter what changes Lindy Ruff made, and not even coming close to being given a fair chance to showcase what he can do. Tyler Toffoli at times has played on a bottom six role. You're playing guys in inappropriate positions and not allowing them to develop at all any sort of chemistry with each other. And that caused, in my opinion, a lot of different problems. His defensive structure, I think, was poor despite what we had on the back end. The goaltending, there's only so much that he can do considering the lack of goaltending that we've had all year long. But those are the things that I put on Lindy Ruff more than anything else. And then the players. I think that this is one of those moments where these players got to look themselves in the eye and look themselves in the mirror and say, we have been not mentally tough in these situations. We have allowed teams to bully us, beat us, and it's so easy for them because whenever we get adversity, we just fall apart. And yeah, it has been a really, really disappointing and difficult season with so many different things that have happened to this team. But despite all of that, if the Devils get on just one good run in this last 21 games, they could very well still make the playoffs. And who knows what could happen by that time. And I know that some people say that we should just throw away the season, but I think when you have a core that's ready to win now and to win championships, you got to give your team opportunities as much as possible, even in a difficult year like this, to try to win. Because you don't know how many years you're truly going to get with this core moving forward, despite them all being locked up for a considerable amount of time. But I put blame on the players for not stepping up, for not defending one another on the ice when they're getting their shit rocked all the time. They got to toughen up mentally and physically. And so now in these last 21 games, it's time to grow up. Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier to an extent, Bratt, Timo, Mercer, everybody's got to wake up. Now you got to go. This is it. This is your last chance. This is a gauntlet of a schedule moving forward. You have a lot of tough games moving forward. You got Florida, St. Louis, and Carolina at home this week. And then after that, you're at the Rangers next Monday, and then next Thursday, you're in Dallas before you play a back-to-back against the Arizona Coyotes and the Vegas Golden Knights. In those 7 games, the only game that you could make an argument that should be a win for this team is the game against the Coyotes on the 16th. Every game before and even after that is going to be tough. Because even after that, against Vegas on the 17th, you have Pittsburgh, you have Winnipeg, and you have Ottawa, who, yes, is struggling, but then you got the Islanders, the Leafs, and you got also Buffalo. You have maybe 2 or 3 games at this point in this month that are games that are definitely very winnable and that you probably should win. But you have to start winning some of these games you're not expected to win. And if you can find some way possible to maybe win all 3 games on this homestand, beating Florida, beating St. Louis, and beating Carolina, it could be a massive momentum swing and get this team going. And I will say this, with the trade deadline coming up on Friday, I think that Tom Fitzgerald is going to see what happens in these next 2 games to then really determine what type of direction he's going to go in terms of the deadline. Is he going to sell? Is he going to buy? Is he going to stay pat? Who knows? We don't really have an inkling. We have an inkling that he's been trying different things to see what he can do, but that's where we're at right now. But the bottom line is that there's blame to go around for all of this, including Lindy Ruff getting fired. But at the end of the day, this team needed a change. And now they've gotten it. And now let's see what they can do with it. And once this season ends, whenever it does and however it ends, the Devils have to take a long look in the mirror and say, we need to find the right guy that's going to take this team to the next level. Could it be Travis Green? For sure. But there's other guys out there as well that the Devils can certainly go after. Jay Woodcroft, maybe Mike Sullivan if he gets fired, as a possibility. Craig Berube's out there right now. There are options out there. But the bottom line is these last 21 games is going to define this season. Are they going to lay down and just say, this is just another thing that we're not going to recover from now that Lindy Ruff's gone? Or are they going to wake up and start playing like the team that they're capable of being? It starts on Tuesday against Florida at home. The time to make a run is now. The time to turn this season around is now. You're either going to make it or break it. I said in the last episode, it was a make it or break it situation. This truly is a make it or break it situation right now for this Devils team. And it started now with Lindy Ruff being let go and fired as the head coach of the New Jersey Devils since being the head coach since 2020. Travis Green will take over as the interim head coach. He was the associate coach for the Devils until just now. And we'll see what Travis Green does as he gets another opportunity to maybe showcase himself as a head coach. He has head coaching experience with Vancouver. He had a lot of good head coaching experience with the Utica Comets when they were the Vancouver Canucks affiliate. Let's see. Let's see what type of different approach, if any, we get from Travis Green. But yeah, Lindy Ruff's gone. And now we move forward into the future. We'll see what happens for the rest of this year and moving into next season. So with that out of the way, just wanted to quickly wrap this episode up with a little bit of trade deadline reporting or rumors that we have up until this point. We'll start with Tyler Toffoli. Elliot Friedman on his 32 Thoughts blog on Monday morning said basically that the Devils don't really have much intention to trade Tyler Toffoli at the deadline despite teams being interested in him. Tyler Toffoli with 25, 26 goals on the year, on his way to being maybe the only 30-goal scorer on this team, and he is on pace to potentially break his career high that he set just last year. Now, Tyler Toffoli may end up getting a lot of big money offers in the offseason, but the Devils, from Tom Fitzgerald's perspective, seem to feel pretty confident that they can get Tyler Toffoli down on a longer-term deal. I think a long-term deal needs to look something like a 3 to 4 year deal, which isn't that long, at a $3 to $4 million at annual AAV. I don't know if that's going to end up being the case, but if Toffoli wants to stay in New Jersey, and it sounds like from all different signs, whether it's Toffoli's father or different reports that we've heard, that Toffoli wants to be in New Jersey, that he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to be traded. And if that's all that case, then Toffoli and his agent, Pat Brisson, need to really understand that in order for this to work, to have cap space to keep to re-sign Dawson Mercer's an RFA, and also have money to try to go after maybe a goaltender, certainly go after a goaltender, you got to take a team-friendly deal. And I think the Devils are making the right move here. The Devils need this 30-goal scorer. It's going to be very hard to replace it if you do trade it. And I will say this whole fucking heartily, and I've been saying it all day on Twitter today. There is no guarantee we're going to get a first for Tyler Toffoli. And if they end up getting a very poor deal for Toffoli just because they wanted to get rid of him, it accomplished nothing. It accomplished nothing. And honestly, I know that people want to add another pick, maybe a prospect to try to entice someone to trading for a goaltender, but it's not a guarantee we're going to get a lot for Tyler Toffoli, especially being a deadline deal. So the bottom line to me is this. Toffoli plays well in this system. Yeah, he's slow, but he still scores. He produces. He's been as advertised And there's no reason, no good definitive reason why he should be removed from this team. Now, if he's asking for too much money in the offseason, that's a different story. But I don't see that being the case because it feels like to me that Toffoli wants to stay and that the Devils feel confident they can get a reasonable deal done. So that's what I wanted to leave with Tyler Toffoli. Let me know what you guys think, whether you think the Devils should keep him or not. Would really, really love to know what you guys think about that. And then last but certainly not least, we got to talk a little bit about Jakob Markstrom at this point. So again, Elliot Friedman on the same 32 Thoughts blog said the Devils have pretty much keyed in on Jakob Markstrom, that he is their guy. He is the guy that the Devils want to get and are willing right now to make a deal again with Calgary and not retain any salary and just get this deal done by Friday. The Flames have shown no indication at this point that they're willing to negotiate with anybody in terms of trading Markstrom, but it's very possible that the Devils could circle back to this in the offseason. Jakob Markstrom said late last week how frustrated he was with how the situation went down. It seemed like to everybody that Markstrom was very much on his way out and going to New Jersey. A deal was pretty much done until ownership of Calgary decided to nix it because of salary retention or whatever the case may be. So right now, I don't expect the Devils to get Markstrom. I don't expect them to get Yusei Saros. I don't even expect them to go after someone like John Gibson. If they're going to get a goaltender, I expect it to be somebody like Kaapo Kähkönen or a Jay Gallen or somebody like that that can at least stabilize the goaltending for the rest of this year, maybe give them enough in order to make a run to get back and into the playoffs and then revisit the goaltending in the offseason. I think long-term solutions are going to have to be determined and executed in the offseason. That's the way that I look at it, unless you're going to get a deal done in the next couple of days, which things can certainly change between now and Friday. But that's kind of where we're at with the Calgary Flames and involving Jakob Markstrom, and we'll see how things progress the rest of this week and see if anything ends up happening. What do you guys think? Do you think a deal will happen? Do you think it won't? Is Markstrom the guy that you want, backstopping the Devils? Is there someone else? Like, what do you guys think the Devils should do? Would love to know your thoughts. But bottom line is, Lindy Ruff is now no longer the head coach of this team. This was a change that was long overdue, and now with 21 games to go, we'll see what a Travis Green-led New Jersey Devils team can do to try to see if they could salvage this season. I'm going to be hopeful, despite many feeling mostly checked out from this year, but I'm going to be hopeful that maybe they can turn it around, and maybe if they get on a run, they can get right back into the swing of things, and, we'll see. So let's just try to be hopeful and see where the chips may lie after these final 21 games.
Say something.